Osio, Tohija, Dawadoa, Ganohalega. Again, my name is Larry Shade. My Cherokee name is Ganohalega, and that means hunter. And today I'm going to be showing you a gig making technique that's been passed down through 3 generations. Well, a long time ago, the animals taught us a lot about what how to do things. And one of the things that is the kingfisher bird is real important to what I do. A long time ago, the kingfisher bird didn't have a bill or a sharp beak, or by no means could he make a living. So the animals held council, and they decided to make a sharp awl and fasten it to his nose where his beak should be. So they told him to go find the highest tree and above the water and look, and whenever a fish come up to the surface, see if he could spear that fish. And the kingfisher did. So unto this very day, the kingfisher bird is probably the greatest gigger of all. The stories from the animals has taught us a lot about what we do today, how to care for nature, how to provide for our families through nature. Our warriors would go out late at night and they would stand on a bank along a creek or river, and with the moon shining, they would stand real still. And when the fish passed where the moonlight was shining in the gravel and they could see, they would gig fish that way. It was a means to provide for your family. But here in a little bit, I'll show you a little bit of what I do, and I'll fire up the forge, and we'll see where it takes us. Yeah. One of the first things you learn to do is wear gloves, because after you start, you don't know what's hot. Your fire pit just depends on how big of a piece you're working with. If I'm making a crawdad gig, I'll just have a small fire, but if I'm making a big fish gig, it'll be a pretty good sized fire pit. It's not real good when it's cold to come out here and hammer, because your metal cools too quick. But now in the summertime, when it's 99 to 100 degrees, that's the ideal time, because your anvil stays hot longer, your metal stays hot longer, and you're able to work with it more. In the bottom of this forge, there's an open pipe that goes through there, and there's a little round platelet called a trie. It's got little holes in it that allows the air to go through. So it's basically just oxygen fed. There's no electricity involved. This crawdad gig right here came from this piece of metal. It was about this long, so you can see. And it's all a process of using hammers. You can hammer shape it. So nowadays, there's some people that live around Jay and Uchi, and they're using plasma cutters and acetylene torches to cut the shape of their gig out, and then they're welding the ferrule to it. But all of what I make is one piece of metal, and it's all hammer shaped, all hand forged. And the shop itself is nothing fancy, it's just an open air shop. A long time ago, it was just this lean-to right here that Dad had made, this little wall, and then this little covering right here. In 1968 is when he made it. Over time, we just kind of added bits and pieces to it. My dad's Hastings Shade. Growing up, I would come out to the shop and watch him. He'd say, "Hey, grab a hammer, grab a hammer." He'd go over and help me. And he never told me no, but I always thought one of these days I wanted, to do what he was able to do. And while he was alive, in the later years before he passed, I got to get out there and I got to make a gig that, he said, "Boy, that looks really good." And I was really proud, because I made something that was similar to his. Didn't quite look like his, but it was similar to his. And after he passed, he had always had gigs for people, and he had a long list of gigs that he needed to make. And then right before he passed, he said, "Bud," he said, "there's a list of names there on the wall in the shop." He said, "Can you make those gigs for those people?" And I said, "Dad," I said, "how about let's just wait, and when you get home, we still will do it." And he said, he looked at me and he went, "All right," but it didn't turn out that way. So we lost him, and that was in I guess late winter that year, and then that spring is when I got out there and I looked at the forge and I thought, it was hard because that's where I got to, sit with him. But I knew that if I didn't continue what he loved, then who else would? The tools that I'm using today, these are farrier's tongs or forging tongs. They're long so that you can extend away from grab your material out of the fire or the coal pit. I also use needle nose pliers. So needle nose work really well when we make the ferrule. Then I can use the needle nose inside the ferrule to work on the tines. These are what we call ferrule spikes. Basically, what they do is that once we round the metal, get the metal to fold over, then we'll put them on the spike and then we'll use it to shape the cone. And the hammers, I have I don't know if you can call it like a 4-pound hammer. And then the other hammer that I will use will be a shaping hammer. This looks similar to this. And a lot of times this right here is used when I want to displace metal and I want to move metal out and move it away. I'll use it and I'll start hammering it out and getting it away. And then just various different types of cold chisels. One of these two are even cut. And this is basically used to cut the tines, separate the tines. The gig itself is made from metal. The ideal metal comes from old buggy springs, old buckboard springs. Now, old Model T for the springs of the axle make really good gigs because of the high carbon content. We have small 6-8-inch gigs, what we call wader gigs, where we get in the creek, we can wade in the water and gig fish that way, or we gig crawdads that way. We also make 3-prong gigs that are used on the river where you can gig in 12, 13, 14 feet of water. So with a good light, you can see, in wintertime, you can see bottom because the clarity of water is really exceptional in the wintertime. Yeah, so what I'm getting ready to do is I'm getting ready to heat this metal. And you can see I just stuck it in there and it didn't take it very long for it to heat up. So you can see it changing color. And what I'm doing is I'm making the ferrule first, and the ferrule is the part that attaches to the wood. So a lot of times that we use it as a handle so we can make the rest of the gig. Now and you flatten it out to a spoon shaped, very similar to what I have here. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna roll it over to get ready to make the cone. So basically just gonna hit it in the middle. And we'll start here. And basically it's just a matter of making sure you're hitting it right so you get it to fold over evenly. So you can see. And the thing about metal too is it's not like cutting wood. Once you make your cut on wood, you can't glue it back. Well, metal, if I expand it out more than I need, then I can bring it back a little bit. Dad would tell me, he said, hey, if you don't feel right that day, and if it doesn't feel like you're gonna make a very good gig, he said, don't. He said, because a lot of times you won't. So when you're out here, just make sure that you produce a product that if you're gonna produce it for yourself and you use it, you're proud of it, because if people want to buy something that you make, and if you make something that don't think it's gonna work, he said, don't sell it. But if he said, if you're happy with what you make and you feel comfortable with it, and he said, then by all means, you should share it. So that's kind of, his philosophy, and it's kind of what I've adopted. A lot of people, I make a gig and they'll say, boy, this is gonna look good on my wall. And that's kind of, I have to, smile, but I make it to use. And so one of these days they can take that gig off the wall and go down to the creek and use it. But from what I understand in this general area, I may be the only one that forges gigs, fish gigs, crawdad gigs. The difference in the gigs all has to do with the barb. The crawdad gigs will be a barbless gig, just a little bit bigger than the old metal coat hangers. And you would temper them almost to a point where not where they would break, but where they would flex a little bit. Now, if you're gigging after fish, then we would attach a barb. And that way, when you gig the fish, the gig would go through the fish, and then the barb wouldn't let the fish slide off the gig. So that was how you could pull the fish to you, or pull it in the boat, or pull it up on the bank, or wherever it is you were gigging. And the main thing, right, when you get ready to split it, is make sure you get it even before you make your cut. Otherwise, when you'll be working with one tine that's bigger than the other one, and the other tine, you're trying to make up the difference. And then from here, I'll start flattening them out and shaping them, and then I'll start making the tines and then draw them out and then get the tines ready for it to be hopefully a good looking crawdad gig. This is what my dad told me a long time ago. I said, Dad, is it hard to make a 3-prong? He said, yeah. He said, it's real hard to make a 3-prong. He said, once you make a 3-prong and you're satisfied with it, he said, you have arrived in gig making. So this is his gig that he made. This is his first 3-prong. And this is mine. So, I'll compare the two, and I'd like to think that I'm close to his level. My two kids, Dustin and even my daughter Katie, they come out here and they hammer with me, and they've each made a gig, so they both know how. What I would like to, see is more than just one person be able to do what I do.
Being Cherokee is one thing, but understanding being Cherokee is a whole new side of you. A lot of us know we're Cherokee, but a lot of us don't understand what that means. It's what it means to you and how you perceive it, and how you can relay that back to someone else. Because eventually in your lifetime, you guys are going to grow up and have families. You're going to have kids that are going to ask, what does it mean to be Cherokee? I hope that what I'm telling you transfers just from me to you to them, and it goes on and on and on.